Hello, everyone, and happy Saturday. I hope you all will have a great weekend. And welcome back to my show from Moscow News Summary and commentary, real talk, by the way, on some major topics. Of course, as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on main developments. And in case you find this program informative, interesting, please indicate that or click that like button, leave some commentary. Algorithm loves this interaction, and so it might promote my videos a little better, so that at least members of our community, by the way, will be able to see the video, right, or receive maybe notification that there is new update. That's been said, dear friends. Of course, it is 25th of July now, 3 p.m. Moscow time. And before I go through news segment itself, let me just remind you that you can initiate conversation about any topic you like during the stream. You can send your question or commentary through PayPal platform, Boosty platform. Links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. Or you can use super chat feature on Rumble. You know, I'm streaming simultaneously on both my channels, on YouTube and Rumble, and you can use a super chat feature on Rumble to either highlight any topic you like or ask a question. I try my best to be informative in response, and I just dropped in YouTube chat link to my Rumble channel. If you have account, you're more than welcome to join our community. So that's been said, dear friends. Without further delay, let's go through some news now. And well, I will start. I will start with some positive news for Russian Federation, Russian people, and all the supporters out there in this world. Russian armed forces liberated two more settlements in the Kharkov region. These settlements are Zakharovka and Ivashkina. Let me show you on the map location of these two villages. It's northern eastern part of the Kharkov region. This is Zakharovka settlement. This is Ivashkina. And looks like Russian troops intend, and this is just guess, by the way, on my behalf. You know, I never claim to be military expert. But it does look to me that the Russian troops maybe are planning to close these pincers here, right, while liberating Kupino settlement, Serdobino settlement, a few others in this area. And basically, in that case, of course, entire this northeastern corner in the Kharkov region will be isolated from Kiev controlled territory, and Kiev regime's forces in this area will have no much option but to lay down arms and surrender, or try to break through encirclement, which not going to be easy task for them, for sure. When it comes to battlefield developments, dear friends, initiative is in Russian hands all along the front line. I can go for a quick update in this matter. In Kherson region, you know, this is the most stable region when it comes to a battlefield, because sides are divided basically either by Dnieper River, and therefore there are no much activity. Sides are shelling each other with artillery, with the drones, and that's about it. But nevertheless, on daily basis, Kiev regime is losing in this direction. Couple of dozen of military personnel and quite a few military equipment. Russian drone operators are very active in this area. When it comes to Zaporozhye direction, well, initiative is in Russian hands in the central and eastern parts. You know, dear friends, Russian troops were advancing, but there was for quite a few months constant attempts of Kiev regime's forces to break through most western part of Zaporozhye sector, and due to this constant, unending suicidal counterattacks, Kiev regime's forces did actually manage to infiltrate areas of Primorsk, Stepnogorsk, and surrounding villages. And what happened is that, as I predicted, at some point, Kiev regimes, these suicidal formations, ran out of steam. They were losing so many military personnel that they were unable to hold on to positions that they managed to recapture due to Russian mobile defense tactics. When Russian troops are moving back, when it's absolutely unnecessary to stand to the last soldier, no, you can move back with active warfare while inflicting a lot of damage to the enemy forces. And when the enemy run out of steam, you move forward and retake the territory. And that's exactly what is going on right now. And according to a number of sources, Russian armed forces are conducting clearing operation in Stepnogorsk city. And maybe in about a week's time from now, we will receive reports that Stepnogorsk is under full Russian control again. And then Russian troops will continue moving forward towards Primorsk. So this was the only sector where Kiev regime was, due to this constant suicidal counterattacks, were managing to reclaim some territories. And now, as it was predictable, reverse process is on the way, and it's Russian troops that are moving forward again. Rest of their battlefield is, initiative is under Russian control, 100%. A few days ago, Russian forces established full control, liberated the Belitskaya settlement, which is definitely a big deal. This is a relatively big town, by the way, with a lot of high-rise apartment buildings inside. And for many people, this report comes as a somewhat surprise that Russian troops did manage to establish control over this settlement this rapidly. Russian troops are getting closer and closer also to Kramatorsk-Slavyansk from northern, eastern, southern directions, and Russian DRGs already are very active, by the way, in both cities, inside the cities, by the way. And there are a lot of videos of destruction, elimination of enemy manpower and military equipment. Although this is a DRGs, obviously, main formations of the Russian forces still are about 8 kilometers away from both settlements. And Kramatorsk-Slavyansk, is the last major fortified area that Kiev regime and their NATO backers have in the DPR, and was fortified since basically 2014. Russian troops also, after liberating Konstantinovka, Russian troops are moving forward, and Osinkovo settlement is, according to some reports, is partially under the Russian control. Russian troops being spotted in this area, and that means that the battle for Alexeyevo-Drushkovka settlement basically has begun. And there are some videos. It is difficult to say what's going on, but there are some videos in which Russian troops allegedly were depicted. I have not seen the video, but I have read about it. That Russian troops were depicted almost in the central part of Alexeyevo-Drushkovka, maybe DRG, or maybe actually regular forces. Forward units of regular forces are advanced so much, right? After what happened with Belitskaya, wouldn't be surprised at all if during the next week, for example, Alexeyevo-Drushkovka will be liberated. Also, when it comes to Kharkov region, I already said Russian troops liberated 2 more settlements in the Sumy direction. There were no reports about some breakthroughs in past 12 to 24 hours, but Russian militaries are very active, improving their current positions and eliminating enemy manpower, military equipment, and Russian drone operators are very active, targeting and destroying practically everything that is one way or another related to military capabilities of Kiev regime. And that's about it for a short summary, by the way. Of course, I'm not military channel, so if you want some more details about these local skirmishes, I recommend military channels for that. But as I said, Russian armed forces conducting a lot of long-range attacks on military, logistical, energy infrastructure of the Kiev regime that is related to military activity. And for example, past night, Russian militaries take out portal infrastructure warehouses in Nikolaev port, in Odessa port, in Izmail port. Odessa and Izmail, of course, are Odessa region. Nikolaev is a separate region, and blockade, maritime blockade on Western-backed Nazi and the terrorist regime in Ukraine is intensifying, and as I predicted, and many others predicted, by the way, let's be clear on that. At this point, it looks like Kyiv regime is unable to use not just maritime routes through Black Sea because of this retaliatory step that was taken by Russian militaries while establishing this maritime blockade, and retaliatory for attacks on Russian civilian fleet, civilian navigation in Azov Sea and the Black Sea. Let's be clear, this was started by Kyiv regime and its NATO backers, and Russia responded on that, establishing this maritime blockade. And so Kyiv regime is unable to receive any goods now, any goods for military activity, neither from Black Sea, neither through Danube River. And Ismail, that I just mentioned, that was struck, portal infrastructure, that was struck past night by Russian forces, Ismail is located exactly here on the Danube River, right? Let me find the city itself now, and I will show you. This one is there. This one is Ismail, and there is a huge portal infrastructure here, which is basically eliminated. And only way now Kyiv regime can receive its goods is ground crossings through Romania and Poland. That is that. Dear friends, Kyiv regime try to divert its maritime activity through Romanian port of Constanța on the Black Sea. But I don't think this will work because Constanța portal infrastructure is not as big and massive as it is in Odessa, let's say, right? Or in Odessa region, it definitely cannot replace portal capabilities of Odessa region. And even then, by the way, I mean, Russian militaries are eliminating vessels that are linked to military activity or capabilities of Kyiv regime that are directed towards Constanța too. So if anyone had hopes in Kiev or Brussels or London or Washington that, well, no big deal, we will use Constanța, no, they would not be able to, right? Even then, I mean, Constanța, as I said, man, it's much smaller capabilities when it comes to logistics than Odessa had, right? So that's what is going on there, but it's not all. Russian armed forces conducted long-range precision strikes on the warehouses of Nova Pochta, which is basically a military wing now of Kyiv regime's logistics, military logistics. Strikes was recorded in Zaporozhye and Sumy regions. You can see on your screen some of the aftermath of this successful long-range strikes. So in Zaporozhye region and Odessa region also, there was a lot of strikes on military and logistical infrastructure. You can see some of the aftermath on your screen. Not just during the nighttime, but also in just past few hours, by the way. There were more strikes that Russian armed forces conducted in this direction. Also, Russian troops continue eliminating gas stations throughout their central, northern, southern regions of Kyiv regime. And we have reports that in Poltava, for example, in Poltava district of Dnipropetrovsk region, that is, isn't it? At least 4 more gas stations were eliminated, and this is not all. Gas stations were eliminated in the Chernigov region, and also in Kharkov region. And you might say, well, no big deal, gas stations, what difference that makes? It makes huge difference, by the way. It makes huge difference because right now, Kyiv regime's forces already are struggling big time to refuel their military equipment throughout their regions that are bordering zero line. Nikolaev region, difficulties. Zaporozhye region, you would not be able to refuel your truck, for example, if you are carrying drones. And you know, dear friends, Kyiv regime and its NATO backers were actively using this civilian, disguised as a civilian trucks for drone launches and other military activity, right? So you would not be able to refuel your military equipment in Zaporozhye region, in Dnipropetrovsk region, in Kryvyi Rog area, right? In Kharkov region, Sumy region, you're going to have significant problems. In Poltava, by the way, Poltava is not Dnipropetrovsk region, it's a separate region, but anyways, right? So it's a big deal. It already makes logistical, it already created a nightmare logistics-wise for Kiev regime's forces, and there will definitely have an impact on a battlefield, on the line of contact. You can see on your screen right now elimination of yet another warehouse that was used by Kiev regime for military purposes. This happened in the Sumy region. I mean, there is nothing left there from that warehouse, and quite a number of trucks were also eliminated. Trucks that probably were carrying drones. And as I said, even though Kiev regime and its NATO backers are thinking now to use Romania's Constanța port for deliveries of all sorts of military goods or anything that helps Kiev regime carry on with military activity, but they are mistaken, because there are reports that past night something happened to a vessel that was carrying coal, for example, for Kiev regime towards the Constanța port in Romania. And the reports are that this vessel experienced some difficulties in economical zone of Romania, which is, I think, quite interesting news, because this vessel was not even in international waters. It was in economical zone of Romania, according to reports. And something happened, suddenly. And this vessel was out of action. Good. We can assume that Russian drone visited this vessel, but no official statements were made about it. But either way, as I said, man, Constanța not going to work that much or that well for enemies of Russia. And also, just a few hours ago, more images emerged about Russian drone strikes on vessels that were delivering or attempting to deliver some military cargo to Kiev regime in the Black Sea. Also, right now on your screen, you can see one of those vessels that was visited by Russian Geran 4 advanced drone. These drones, the friends, Geran 4 drones are operated by Russian alternative to American Starlink. These drones are guided by Russian satellite internet, and you can probably understand that I'm very positive that Russia is definitely not far behind when it comes to these modern technologies, including satellite internet. Bureau 1440 and there are other companies that are actively working on development of satellite internet probably soon will present their product to mass consumer, to public. But as of now, Russian militaries, understandably so, are first customers of this additional tool, which is great, which is good, right? Once again, highlights how technologically advanced Russia is, by the way. I mean, no one should listen to all this freaking propaganda that they hear in the West, that Russia is a gas station and they don't have nothing. And, really? We are a gas station? I don't think so. I don't think so. And anyone with a working brain knows perfectly well that Russia is one of the most advanced countries out there in this world, period. RIA Novosti is also reporting, and you might heard this news already, because unfortunately yesterday, due to some issues with the internet connection, I was unable to make an update. But yesterday, exactly, Russian Air Forces conducted long-range precision strike in the Kiev suburbs where exhibition was taking place, where local drone manufacturers or weapons manufacturers and foreign drone or weapons manufacturers, primarily from NATO countries, had this mass gathering right? They're bragging about weapons that they are using already or planning to use against Russian people, and suddenly Russian Gerbera drones, oh no, Banderol. I believe it was a Banderol cruise missiles arrived, 10 of them, according to some reports, right? And well, it was a big strike, massive strike, and given the reaction from Kiev regime, looks like possibly some high-ranking officials, military staff, not just for Kiev regime, but also NATO member states were eliminated during this attack. At this point, what is known is that at least one high-ranking SBU officer was neutralized during this attack. Another high-ranking official of Kiev regime was neutralized. That was responsible for international affairs communication when it comes to weapons supplies to Kiev regime. There are reports that a Polish weapons manufacturer was neutralized also, but I think there is much more there to see. Probably there was some military attaches from some NATO member state embassies in this participating in this gathering, NATO officers and so on. But yet again, very little information was actually given to public by Kiev regime, and that indicates to me that this strike was very successful, and it will serve potentially as a message for Russian enemies, not just in Ukraine but in NATO countries too, that well, only for so long they can target Russian Federation and the Russian people with the total impunity. Things might change, and anytime. So it was a big deal. It was a big deal, basically, and another successful strike of Russian Federation. And also on this topic of explosions and so on, I want to share with you these reports that there was a massive explosions at an industrial facility in Essex, by the way, England, UK. I can show you a video, actually. It was a truly big explosion, and there not surprisingly, some speculations began straight away. What was that? Did Russia had something to do with it? Is it a part of asymmetric warfare, or that Russia might implement against NATO member states that are involved directly in a war against Russian people? And it is anybody's guess. Obviously, it is anybody's guess what caused this massive explosion, and it was massive. Man. Just look at the video. So see it from the beginning. So massive explosion for sure, and it's not just me or many other people that were asking questions. What's going on? But I saw on Twitter X this post from Glenn Deason, Norwegian expert, by the way, who also shared this story. And his comment is, it is still unclear what caused the massive explosion at the industrial site in Essex, UK. And one of the members of our community, by the way, Daniela, thank you very much. If you are watching, thank you very much for sharing on Patreon your knowledge about this situation. And a member of our community, Daniela, wrote today on my Patreon that there are reports inside the UK that probably this explosion was related to some fertilizers that were stored in this area. Fertilizers can be used for explosive materials, right? We all know that. We all remember explosion of thousands of tons of fertilizers in Beirut port a few years ago. I mean, it was an explosion like freaking nuclear bomb without radiation, a colossal explosion. In this particular case, obviously, volume of whatever exploded, fertilizers or whatever, is much less, but nevertheless, something clearly happened there. And all we know for now is that maybe some fertilizers were stored in this area. Still, we don't know what caused the explosion, whatever it was, fertilizers or freaking dynamite. We don't know, right? Maybe some freedom fighters, English freedom fighters that don't want their country to be implicated in a genocide and mass murder. Maybe those freedom fighters just went in and did this so that UK will send less weapons outside. Who knows? I'm just speculating, obviously, but who knows, man? I hope there will be more freedom fighters in UK, in US, everywhere, man, in these NATO countries, because those countries have to be liberated. Those people have to be liberated, right? From the terrorist regimes that hijack the power there. So some interesting stuff. But well, same time, unfortunately, due to this large involvement of NATO member states in this war against Russian Federation, they are still able to launch hundreds of drones to strike Russia, and the past night was no exception. Neither daytime is exception. Already dozens of drones were intercepted by Russian air defenses during the day, but past night Russian air defense force intercepted 328 drones over there. Belgorod, Bryansk, Volgograd, Voronezh, Kirov, Kursk, Lipetsk, Nizhny Novgorod, Oryol, Rostov, Ryazan, Samara, Saratov, Tula, Ulyanovsk region, so the Moscow region, Krasnodar Krai, Republic of Crimea, Republic of Chuvashia, Republic of Mariel, Republic of Bashkortostan, Republic of Kalmykia, and over the waters of Azov Sea. So massive geography of past night's attacks on Russian Federation, unfortunately, yet again, but well, as long as there is no deterrence in place between Russia and collective West, and as long as these NATO countries can strike Russia, kill Russian citizens, destroy Russian infrastructure with total impunity, as it is the case for a very long time now, of course, these kind of attacks will continue to happen literally every single day and every single night, and we just don't really have an option but to endure this pain, these attacks, and carry on with whatever tasks we have, either on the battlefield or in a life, right? It is what it is. RIA Novosti is also reporting that well, one of the directions of past nights early morning attacks of Kiev regime and its NATO backers was Zaporozhye region, and unfortunately 8 people were killed in one of those attacks on a tourist center in the Zaporozhye region. 8 civilians killed, a dozen of civilians wounded, and unfortunately among killed and wounded are children. Ukrainian Air Forces, other NATO countries attacked tourist camps in the village of Kirillovka overnight. There are casualties, including minors, according to Evgeny Baletsky, head of Zaporozhye region. At this time, he wrote on his Max platform, on his Max channel, 14 people are known to have been injured, including 3 children. 8 people have died, including 2 children. Massive tragedy, once again, orchestrated by NATO member states. Balitsky promised to provide assistance to their families of the victims, and their injured emergency services are working at the site of their strike, and rescue efforts are ongoing. The regional head added that the enemy saw and understood who they were attacking, but they still deliberately attack civilians anyways, and that's what they do. That's what they do, by the way. I mean, Stanislav Krapivnik, expert, military expert, political commentator, spoke many times on different channels, right? On his own channels and on other channels when he is invited. that NATO countries are adopting gamification when it comes to these drone attacks, and they are basically training drone operators to go after everybody and anything they see, including civilians, including children. And that's what they do. And while killing civilians, they are receiving some points that they can then monetize some ways. That's what NATO countries are doing, by the way. That's what they teach Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists. So when I say people, societies in NATO countries needs to be liberated, I'm 100% correct, by the way, because ask anybody, either in UK or in US or in France or Germany, are they okay that their countries are directly engaged in the mass killings of the civilians? Vast majority will say, no, they are not okay with that. But still their voice is unheard, not being heard by their own so-called governments. You know why? Because those countries had been hijacked by mass murderers, terrorists, genocidal maniacs. This is true. So hopefully, I really hope, man, that freedom fighters will actually emerge. Sometimes I'm ironic while saying that, freedom fighters from US and from UK and from France, but it's not about irony, really. I think these countries definitely need freedom fighters because they have to free their own countries from globalist scum. True. TASS news agencies are also reporting that 5 people were injured in another terrorist attack orchestrated by NATO countries on Russian Federation in Rostov region. And Rostov city itself, Rostov-on-Don and the region came under heavy attack past night. This was one of the main directions, and there were a lot of videos or images out there on the internet with the drone interceptors. Unfortunately, in some cases, videos of drones striking actually civilian areas, and at least 5 people were injured as a result of these attacks. Also, past night, early morning, there was attacks also in Ekaterinburg direction, where enemy Kiev regime and their NATO backers attempted to strike Wildberry's warehouse, and the early reports were that warehouse actually was struck and destroyed, but this is not the case. Early images that emerge that depicts some thick smoke created this wrong reading of the situation. Warehouse actually survived. This is the Wildberries, by the way, warehouse in Yekaterinburg, and parking was struck. Drone missed the warehouse and struck civilian vehicles that were parked there, and that's from where this smoke is coming. Although there is obviously no guarantees that this night Kiev regime and its NATO backers not going to try to destroy this Wildberries warehouse again in Ekaterinburg. Also, we have reports that fire broke out at the Tyumen oil refinery after drone strike, after drone crashed, as TASS news agency says, but I guess it was not just simple crash, it was drone strike, right? Fire erupted in a refinery. Local governor Alexander Moore reported about it. Emergency services are working at the scene. Let me show you the different location of Yekaterinburg, Tyumen. These cities are very, very far away from Ukraine, as you can see on your screen, right? This is Ukraine here. Right? This is Google map. Ukraine right now geographically looks differently, obviously, right? because DPR, LPR, Zaporozhye, Kherson regions in Crimea are Russian Federation, and soon more regions to become Russian Federation, 100%. But well, this is a Kiev controlled territory on this part here. And this is where Yekaterinburg is located. This is where Tyumen is located. And little far away there is Omsk city. And this is important, by the way, because today Russian president and president of Kazakhstan will have a meeting on the sidelines of one of the forums in Omsk, right? And even though Western propaganda, Kiev regime's propaganda are pushing the narrative that these drones that are targeting either Tyumen or Ekaterinburg are coming from Kiev-controlled territory, in reality, I'm 100% convinced, by the way, these drones are coming always. Whenever this part of Russian Federation is struck, Far East, Siberia or Far East, drones are launched from Kazakhstani territory, 100%. Me personally have no doubts about it. There is no way, not even the slightest theoretical chance that drones launched from Kiev-controlled territory can fly 2,000 plus kilometers to strike Tyumen, for example, or to fly about 2,000 kilometers throughout dozens of Russian regions and struck Ekaterinburg. And Omsk was targeted too. You remember, by the way, a few weeks ago, largest Russian oil refinery was struck in Omsk, right? Well, maybe Russian president will have a conversation with Kazakhstani leader today on the sidelines of that forum in Omsk about involvement of Kazakhstan in these terrorist attacks on Russian civilians and the Russian Federation. I hope he will have a conversation and he will send a strong message to Astana, to Tokayev, Kazakhstani president, that if Astana is unable to control this territory, then we can help with that. Russia can help, right? After all, I believe Kazakhstan is just too big, unnecessarily big, honestly, right? It's a creation of the Bolsheviks. And then Bolsheviks, you know, they created Ukraine, they created Kazakhstan, by the way, country that never existed in the past, never, by the way. Check me, by the way. I mean, go on Google and search Kazakhstan in 1,500 years ago, Kazakhstan 1,000 years ago, Kazakhstan 500 years ago, Kazakhstan 100 years. There was a Kazakhstan. Bolsheviks created it. But 150 years ago, there is no freaking Kazakhstan, right? None. Never existed. And Bolsheviks, as they give Russian territory to Ukraine that they created, they also give land that should be Russian to Kazakhstan, right? Let's be real here. And by the way, whoever will say, well, Kazakh people were living there for thousands and thousands of years, I will recommend to those people to read history a little more carefully, because first actual civilizations that are documented to live in modern Central Asia were Iranic speaking people that eventually created their Scytho-Sarmatian civilization, right? So that is that too. There were no Kazakh people that were living 2,000 years ago in steppes of modern Kazakhstan. But Iranic speaking people, including my ancestors, by the way, were living there actually, right? That's how it is. And I think because they're only direct descendants that maintain their language and cultural element are only direct descendants of Scytho-Sarmatian civilization are Alans, modern Alans, Ossetians. And because North Ossetia Alania is part of Russian Federation and a proud member of Russian Federation, I think all the historical land of Ossetian people, Alan people, descendants of Scytho-Sarmatians, should be in Russian Federation. My personal opinion, by the way, right? And I don't give a damn who thinks what about this matter. I think that will be justified. So hopefully Putin will tell Tokayev today in Omsk that if Astana is unable to secure its own, at least for now, territory and airspace, we will help. Because these drone attacks on Russian territory is happening from Kazakhstan, not from Ukraine, but from Kazakhstan, whenever Russian Siberia, Far East is targeted. And I'm 100% convinced, by the way, Azerbaijan is also involved in transferring drones or explosives into Kazakhstani territory. I'm quite sure there is assembly lines, and not just one, I guess, on the Kazakhstani territory. And I'm quite sure British and US embassies in Kazakhstan also are directly involved in a transfer of certain stuff that then are used for these attacks. That's how it is. That's how it is, man, actually. Not just because I am sure that this is the case, but because this is only logical explanation, right? This is just only logical explanation. As I said, Putin and Tokayev will participate in the inter-regional cooperation forum in Omsk today, and both presidents arrived actually in Omsk, and maybe at this particular moment when I'm online with my program, two presidents have a meeting. And definitely something has to be done, man. Something has to be done about Kazakhstan involvement in these attacks on Russian Federation, because after all, Kazakhstan, at least formally on the paper, is a Russian ally. Not just political, economical, but military ally, because Kazakhstan is a member of CSTO, right? Collective Security Treaty Organization. Kazakhstan is not a neutral country in any way, shape, or form. It's a military ally of Russia, yet again, at least on the paper. Of course, dear friends, I already mentioned that in order to stop all these long-range attacks on the Russian Federation, Moscow has to restore deterrent with the collective West. This is the only way, objectively speaking. This is just the only way, as long as there is military activities that are going on. And even though right now Moscow is reluctant to do so, and Russian security services and militaries don't receiving green light from Kremlin to go ahead and restore deterrent with the European NATO member states, with US, with collective West, generally speaking. Well, China is acting differently. China is acting differently, and China is actually exercising and reinforcing deterrent constantly with US and with Europe. And for example, we have this report now that China has added 14 companies from EU to its export control list. Chinese Ministry of Commerce stated that their measure is a response to the 21st package of EU sanctions against Russia, because European bureaucracy went out to Chinese companies too. Chinese companies that are doing business with the Russian Federation. And those European bureaucrats somehow forget that most of these drones, maybe not all, definitely not all, but most of the drones that are manufactured in the US or Canada or Europe are using in significant ways, parts that are produced in China. So Chinese companies are doing business not just with Russia, but unfortunately, when it comes to civilian or dual use, let's say, equipment, but they are doing business with their Russian enemies too, and that is US, Canada, European countries. But Brussels forget about it, and they went after Chinese companies, and Beijing said, you know what? Okay, bring it on. We're going to impose sanctions on 14 of your companies now, and well, for a beginning, that will do. And you might say, well, 14 companies, no big deal. No, it is a big deal, dear friends, because with these small steps, China reinforced deterrence with US on the side that nowadays Lockheed Martin is transferring the so-called 5th gen F-35 fighter jets to US militaries without a radar. And without radar, these modern planes are literally just junk, right? That's junk that is capable of flying, but nothing else, literally. You need a radar, 100%. And these Chinese small steps, right? When they are putting 2 companies from there, 3 companies from there, 10 from there, another 14 from EU to these sanctions lists, well, they are basically prohibiting those companies to get their hands on rare earth materials that are used in extremely sensitive equipment. And radars are such equipments. Military industrial complex is one of the main industries that use Chinese rare earth, military industrial complex from all over the world. And so this is a big deal. And that's how Beijing demonstrates that you don't mess around too much. Otherwise, you're going to get smacked. I'm not sure Brussels will understood the message, but those companies will understood for sure. And when European military industrial complex will be way behind schedule to deliver certain modern military equipment to customers, to armies, let's say, of European countries, and questions will be raised, how this can be, what's going on? Well, that's the answer. That's the answer. They cannot produce much without China, really. But yet again, Brussels bureaucrats reveal no difference. They're imbeciles, right? European elites, generally speaking, total imbeciles, and that goes for Brussels bureaucracy too, because only imbeciles cannot understand the real power dynamics in this world, right? And they continue act as if they are on Olympus Mountain or something, right? And that's what they do, man. Western elites are acting as if they are some sort of gods on this planet when they are not. But yet again, because they are freaking imbeciles, they cannot understand this. And that's why they are pushing now a new initiative in EU to basically further intensify harassment of Russian civilian fleet, to further intensify harassment of commercial shipping, basically tankers, to be more precise, that are linked with Russia one way or another. And they want not just hijack these vessels, but also sell the oil that they will steal. They want to. Can you imagine, by the way? I mean, level of degeneration of these scumbags, man, is just beyond anything. They want to hijack more vessels and then sell oil, and they are legalizing this process. European Union has authorized the sale of Russian oil seized from ships in the shadow fleet, according to Euro CTV. This very important provision will allow member states to confiscate goods transported by the shadow fleet after they have been intercepted during a naval operations, stated EU official. And well, this definitely means that soon there will be further activization or further intensification of attempts of European member states with the assistance of US to impose a maritime embargo on Russian European ports. And there is an answer on that. Of course, there is a ways how Moscow can respond. One is to basically escort these vessels, oil tankers, and other civilian vessels with naval assets. Another way is to deploy some militaries actually on board of these vessels, or recruit private military companies that will provide certain protection. Either way, because Brussels bureaucrats are too freaking idiot to understand anything, they will definitely go ahead with this move, and Soon, probably we're gonna hear more and more reports about either hijacking of vessels, commercial vessels that are linked to Russia, including oil tankers, or attempts of hijacking those vessels. We are living in a crazy world, really. I mean, actually. And dear friends, before I continue, and don't go anywhere, there is lot of news to report, plenty of news on major topics to report, actually. But before I continue, let me just remind you, if I may, that this media project exists only as long as I have your support, community support. And if you like my programs, if you find my updates informative, interesting, useful, or maybe entertaining also, at least time to time, then please consider to join our members, our supporters. You can do it, or you can support my work and this project with donation through PayPal or Boosty platforms. Links are under this video in description box. You can subscribe to my Patreon page that you see on your screen right now. You can subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty, where I have extra content on regular basis. And dear friends, as I have said many times before, in order this project to be in a more or less safe place, our community on Patreon and Boosty needs to double. Right now on Boosty, there is only 12 members in the community, and on Patreon, only 133 members. So our communities need to double there, and well, I welcome with open arms everybody that will decide to join and support this project like that. As I said, the links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And monthly subscription starts from $5 on a Patreon, dear friends, and it's around $5 and Boosty too. It always depends on exchange rate. So there is these ways that you can support her: PayPal, Boosty, Patreon, and during the live streams right now, for example, you can use super chat feature. On Rumble to donate, to highlight any question or topic you want, and to and you can use a premium subscription gift card, by the way, on Rumble. This is also, of course, great supporter. I dropped again link to my Rumble channel. If you have account, join our community there if you can. Oh, really? Goodness me, man! I made a mistake. Thank you, Anna, for telling me. I dropped a link to my Rumble channel in the Rumble chat. Well, it is in YouTube chat also now. So if you can subscribe, dear friends, on my Rumble channel. Unlike YouTube, Rumble channel is actually growing little by little, step by step, but there is a certain progress on Rumble, while on YouTube there is a stagnation because my channel is in just tremendous shadow ban, and even community members, even subscribers, by the way, very rarely, if ever, receive notifications about my updates. So anyways, dear friends, all the links, of course, that can be used to support my work are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And many thanks to everybody who ever supported and continues to support my work and this independent media project of mine. That being said, dear friends, let's continue with some other news, and there is a lot to discuss. Yesterday, I was unable to make a live stream because of these issues with their connection with all these international platforms that are blocked here in Russia. Yesterday, there was another wave of restrictions on VPN services and so on. And I was trying whole day long, by the way, to restore a connection. Initially, I managed to restore low-speed connection. Then, later on, high-speed connection, relatively high speed, so it's good enough for a live stream. And so, yes, due to technical issues, I was unable to make an update, but there was a lot of important developments yesterday too, and I will highlight some of them if I may. Although possibly some of the members of our community who heard about this news already from other sources, but if not, then this report might be relevant in that case. So yesterday night, dear friends, Russian armed forces intercepted 571 drones. That's during their nighttime. It was one of their biggest attacks on the Russian Federation orchestrated by NATO member states. 6 people were killed as a result of these attacks in Kyiv, where one of their enterprises was struck with missiles, according to many reports. There are some speculations that enterprise that was targeted in Kyiv was involved in producing some parts for Russian S-300 and S-400 air defense systems. I don't know if these reports are true or not, but that's the speculations out there on internet. But what is most important, well, unfortunately, 32 people were injured during this attack, and 6 people were killed. This morning, I saw some reports on media that one of the people that were missing was found. So there was a risk that this number of killed will further increase, but one missing person was found. But nevertheless, another tragedy orchestrated by NATO member states. Also yesterday, there was a massive attack on Leningrad region and St. Petersburg. Dear friends, in previous updates, I mentioned that a NATO AWACS plane was operating over the Baltic NATO member states for at least 2 days straight, and some other assets probably were also active. And I said straight away that most definitely NATO countries are preparing large-scale attack on the Leningrad region, and that's exactly what happened. And yesterday, this large-scale attack took place. About 60 drones, I believe, were intercepted by Russian air forces, but unfortunately, many other drones bypass air defense, and the primary target again was Wildberry's e-commerce company, basically, right? Wildberries was targeted, and their warehouse was basically destroyed. Unfortunately, air defense forces were overwhelmed. Even I, not a military person, understood that NATO was preparing large-scale attack on Leningrad region and St. Petersburg. Unfortunately, air defense forces that were deployed in the area were not enough to eliminate all the aerial targets, and another massive hit on Russian economy. I don't know if Wildberries can even survive, by the way, after so many of Wildberries' warehouses were taken out in recent weeks. Also, Wildberries' warehouse yesterday was targeted in Simferopol and was basically completely destroyed. Today we have reports. That well, in the Krasnodar region, a fire was extinguished on additional warehouses that was targeted by Kyiv regime's forces. And dear friends, I mentioned that Kyiv was struck by missiles, according to some reports, right? Yesterday. And on Kirill Fedorov Vayna Istoria Оружия channel, I saw this report, according to which Dutch company named Destinus transferred to Kyiv regime to be used against Russian Federation cruise missiles named Router with a range of 300 kilometers. And there are reports that there is a 2 types of these missiles, Router Block 1 and Router Block 2. And Block 2 has a range of about 700 kilometers. And because of these Router missiles, you can see on your top corner on the screenshots here, because these Router missiles were depicted on a video, and photo materials that emerge on internet, looks like Dutch is directly participating now. Netherlands basically directly participating on these long-range attacks on Russian Federation while testing their new weapons systems. Unfortunately, they were to restrain their policies that Moscow continues to exercise in regards to NATO member states that are directly engaged in this war against Russian people. Well, those NATO countries are so emboldened that they are treating now Russia as a testing ground for their weapons, which is humiliating, which is tragic, but unfortunately, that's where we are. This is the sad, tragic, objective reality that we have no right to ignore. We have to face the reality, no matter how unpleasant it is. And we're being treated by these NATO member states as a testing ground for their weapons. And it's not just Netherlands that are doing this. Other countries are involved in this term, UK, US, among them France. And when it comes to France, for example, also reports emerged that France is testing, or already tested actually, their new MLRS system that can launch missiles on distances up to 150 kilometers at least. So, yeah, it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate that looks like due to this deterrence, due to these restrained policies, we turn now ourselves into testing ground for all sorts of weapons that NATO countries are working on. I mean, very unfortunate, very sad reality, but it is what it is, and God knows when, if ever, Moscow will actually decide that they have to restore deterrent. I mean, everybody is asking questions, but no one knows the answer. How long Moscow will continue to tolerate all these hostilities that are coming from NATO countries. Meanwhile, dear friends, due to these long-range attacks on Russian Federation for quite a while now, many regions here in Russia experienced some difficulties when it comes to fuel supplies, when it comes to some logistical stuff. And we have this report today that queues, at least queues, by the way, at gas stations have been reduced in 45 regions. So situation with the fuel supplies are getting better. And this is true, by the way. This is not just some sort of propaganda that TASS come up with, TASS news agents. No, this is actually the truth because new logistical lines were implemented, because Russia started importing significant volumes of gasoline. Some reports suggest even diesel, although I find it difficult to believe that we are now forced to import diesel also. But anyways, new routes of logistics were introduced, implemented, and it does has its positive impact on the situation. And at least in 45 regions, there is less queues now on a gas station. Unfortunately, there are some regions that still facing some serious challenges in this regard. Crimea is, of course, first and foremost in very difficult situation. Hopefully, soon this crisis, logistical energy crisis in Crimea, will be restored. And I remind you, dear friends, that Russian military has deployed significant number of air defense forces, including mobile air defense forces, in this land bridge that connects Crimea with mainland Russia. And if you notice, Kiev regime is publishing less and less videos of successful attacks on Russian civilian trucks, for example, that are transferring goods from mainland Russia to Crimea. So soon, I believe there is reasons to believe that soon Crimea will be deblockaded completely. But as of now, there is some issues that needs to be dealt with. Also, on the matter of how long Moscow will tolerate these hostilities from NATO countries, I don't know answer, obviously. I'm personally skeptical that Russian President Vladimir Putin will ever authorize Russian security services or militaries to restore the terrain with the collective West, because that will require retaliatory strikes. There is no other way, really, no other option. If we want to restore the terrain with collective West, we have to use only language they understand, and this is language of force. And how you're gonna demonstrate force? You have to strike back, right? On legit targets, obviously. So I don't think Russian president will ever authorize Russian security services and militaries to restore the terrain with the collective West. And therefore, there is like only a few options left, right? One is to only a few options that Russian president probably is considering for himself. One is to continue attempts to negotiate something with the Western ruling class, some sort of deal, political solution for this crisis, and another one could be that well, maybe Russian president thinks, you know what, we continue special military operation. There is a progress on the ground, which is true, by the way. Russian troops are slowly but surely moving forward, and maybe that's what Putin's view is, that we will just endure whatever is coming in terms of these long-range attacks on Russian Federation. We will not escalate with the NATO countries, and eventually we will liberate all the new regions completely, and then we will see. Maybe that's their Putin strategy, or who knows? Maybe he does not really have any strategy whatsoever. I don't know, but Lavrov once again spoke about Anchorage spirit, rather, Anchorage summit. Russian officials cannot forget this Anchorage. I find it very strange. That Russian officials still talk about this humiliating Anchorage summit, totally humiliating, because we've been played once again by very same Western ruling class that misled us, played with us with Minsk 1, Minsk 2, and all the other agreements that they were ever in a place, right? But somehow we did manage to, find ourselves being misled again in Anchorage. I mean, okay, strange, but it is what it is, and Russian officials still talk about it. Lavrov, for example, commented on Russia's approach to their agreements reached in Anchorage, and he stated, in the case of Anchorage agreement, Russia uphold their principle of man's word is his bond. And you know what? I understand what Lavrov is talking about. Don't get me wrong, dear friends. I understand what Lavrov is talking about. In real life, if you say word, by the way, you're going to keep your word, right? If you are a man. And I understand Lavrov's take that, well, we had their agreement, we spoke, right? And we shake hands. And they should honor this agreement. But for God's sake, you expect agreement to be honored by Western ruling class, by Trump and his inner circle? I mean, honestly, I don't know, man, how this can be. I really struggle to understand how anybody could expect that Trump or anybody in American ruling class or in European ruling class, by the way, can expect that those people will honor agreement. Verbal agreement or even signed agreement. There is a lot of signed documents that Western countries ignoring, refusing to honor. And I truly struggle to understand that these very experienced politicians like Putin, heavyweights, by the way, right? Putin, Lavrov, and all the others, they are so naive that they actually believed that Trump and his inner circle will honor verbal agreement. I don't know, man. How this can be, man? Isn't it? I mean, I don't know. I cannot understand this. The Russian foreign minister also commented on yesterday's dialogue with Marco Rubio. It was day before yesterday, actually. I bookmarked this news yesterday. So if there is a proposal and an agreement, then presumably the result reached in Anchorage were coordinated. Yes, sir, they were, he's kind of asking, yes, they were coordinated. We accepted it is a compromise. We accepted it as a compromise proposal, and any agreement, I believe, should inevitably contain an element of compromise. So Lavrov once again is saying that Moscow agree on some compromises during that Anchorage summit that the US never intended to honor. Furthermore, Sergei Lavrov added that the United States has apparently changed its approach to the understandings on Ukraine reached at the summit in Alaska, but Russia will, in any case, fulfill its tasks. I guess under the tasks, he means demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine, and we are quite far away, looks like, from finalizing these tasks, because when it comes to denazification, well, unfortunately, Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists are as strong as they ever been in Ukraine, and when it comes to demilitarization process, well, unless we're going to demilitarize NATO, we're not going to be able to demilitarize Ukraine, because Ukraine is receiving all the weapons from NATO, right? And the NATO, unfortunately, still has a lot of those weapons, a lot, old, new, you name it. So therefore, I think when it comes to achieving these tasks, we have many more years ahead of us of this special military operation, giving the objective realities on the ground and speed with which we are advancing. We are advancing nevertheless, but of course, it's a slow process to minimize casualties among our troops. So it is what it is. So yes, strange, man, strange. But Russian officials still talking about Anchorage. Maybe you understand what's going on, dear friends, because I truly, honestly struggle to grasp my mind around this subject, because I cannot understand how these heavyweight, very experienced politicians like Putin and Lavrov and all the others could ever believe that Western ruling class and their puppets in Western governments, including US, will ever honor verbal agreement when they are refusing to honor agreements that they actually signed up for. I mean, I don't know, man. This is beyond my understanding, right? I don't know. I just don't. Meanwhile, a press spokesman of the Russian president stated that Russia is still awaiting US proposals for a settlement in Ukraine. So they are not just talking about Anchorage summit, but they are expecting some new proposals. And you know why? Because Marco Rubio hinted on something. Marco Rubio says something somewhere. They are taking Marco Rubio now seriously, man. I mean, this is tragic. This is freaking tragic, man. Russia is awaiting new US proposals for settlement in Ukraine, stated Russian presidential press secretary Dmitry Peskov. Earlier, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that New ideas and proposals are needed to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. I give you a quote. Well, wait for the new proposals, Peskov told Western news agencies Alter Pavel Zarubin, answering the question about whether Moscow would wait for new proposals from Washington regarding the Ukrainian settlements. So, yeah, Moscow intends to wait. Okay, okay, man. I mean, if you're gonna continue to take seriously Trump and Rubio and the Ursula von der Leyen or Ursula Bursula washing machine and Kaya Kallas and that kind of people, that kind of elements, right? Then yeah, good luck, man. This is just unbelievable, right? Meanwhile, one more topic that I want to highlight, dear friends, is that lately Western propaganda, anti-Russian propaganda, began pushing the narrative that, well, new wave of mobilization is being prepared in Russia. And I don't even know what their expectation is when these Western propagandists are pushing this narrative that what's going to happen, what kind of reaction they think they're going to see in Russia. I mean, if they're going to be a new wave of mobilization, okay, it's going to be a new wave of mobilization. And so what? I might be among first who will be mobilized because I'm a reservist, right? And I'm old enough, by the way. So if I die, I die, man. It's better I die than someone young, right? For the country, that is. So am I ready to be mobilized? Yes, absolutely. Hopefully, I will get some, at least little bit of training so that I will have any freaking at least little understanding of what's going on, right? At least I will know how to freaking disassemble and reassemble the AK. And then I will try my best. You know, that's all I can say. But, and this is the attitude that vast majority of men here in Russia gonna have. You know, if that's our fate, that's our fate. If we're gonna have a mobilization and we're gonna be recruited to end up somewhere on the battlefield, then okay, that's the fate, by the way. You cannot run away from your fate, right? And if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. And if I'm gonna live, I'm gonna live. As simple as that. As simple as that. No one gonna be freaking scared, man. It does not mean that we are freaking suicidals and we are dreaming about being dead. No, man. But because we are fatalists in our nature, many of us, majority of us, that does not really scare us. In a way, I guess it does scare people in some other parts of the world, maybe in the West also. I don't know. But I truly don't understand why this Western propaganda still tries, right, to push this narrative that there's going to be mobilization in Russia and so what? And so what? I'm actually in support of mobilization. If Putin suddenly will change his restraint policy and if he goes for a mobilization, just in case. I'm not saying that Russian militaries need more troops on the battlefield. Russian militaries have enough troops, by the way, on the battlefield, in reserve. And the Russian militaries are doing just fine. But if Putin intends, let's say, to change his restraint policy and to stay on the safe side, and that will mean, you know, if we're going to restore deterrent with the collective West, and that, you know, if we're going to strike them as a retaliation, and then see what's going to happen, then of course it will make sense if we will have, let's say, another 500,000, additional 500,000 troops in reserve, maybe million troops, by the way. It's too much of a troops, but I mean, okay, I mean, we can get mobilized for like 3 months, 5 months. Yet again, just to stay on safe side. And if Putin says tomorrow that, you know what, guys, I try diplomatically, I try every possible way to build some bridges with these freaking morons that are in charge of the collective West, nothing works. You all see, isn't it? I've been criticized by you, people of Russia, for being this patient. But I was trying my best to avoid a possible larger escalation, but nothing works. They don't understand diplomacy. They are freaking imbeciles, people that are in charge of the West. So therefore, we have to teach them a lesson now. So let's mobilize, right? Let's mobilize million reservists and do the job, right? Finish the job. And you know what, dear friends? Putin's rating gonna skyrocket on the same day. If Putin will say something like that, his rating is gonna freaking skyrocket, man. Because that's what people actually want, man. Let's finish the job, right? Let's teach everybody freaking lesson. And I am ready to be mobilized, and the vast majority of men here in Russia are ready to be mobilized. That is that. Hopefully, I will pass freaking medical test because, there is certain medical issues that are treatable, blind, but I never have time to treat that stuff. But during the mobilization, probably I'll pass, I guess, right? That is that, really. But this is all, my answer on this Western propaganda that, well, they're going to be mobilization in Russia and this and that. Okay, bring it on, man. That's exactly what we need, what we want. Mobilization and go for to finish the job. But unfortunately, there's going to be no mobilization. Unfortunately, man, there's going to be no mobilization, at least anytime soon. And I don't think Kremlin has in the plans mobilization, because you can imagine, dear friends, if you want to mobilize, let's say, 300,000 people, as it was during the first wave, or let's say 500,000 people, you have to prepare, right, this mobilization. Because when these hundreds of thousands of people will come to recruitment center, you need to give them a military uniform. You need to give them weapons. You need to give them whatever, right? Whatever is needed. And all this logistical stuff cannot be hidden, by the way. This is a tremendous logistical work, right? And right now, here in Russia, no such a work is being noticed. So therefore, unfortunately, Kremlin probably does not even think about mobilization, right? And no wonder Andrei Kolesnik, member of State Duma Committee on Defense, refuted the rumors about mobilization measures, calling them fabrications by Western media and a tool of propaganda. And he is on point there. This is all just Western speculations. And funniest thing about this topic is that, yet again, man, probably they think in the West, those Western elites, that mobilization scares us, man. No, we want mobilization, actually. We want to finish the job, right? And by the way, I am one of, at least in alternative media, I'm one of the biggest critics of Putin's restraint policies. But if he today or tomorrow or day after makes statement to public that he tried everything, right, diplomatically, did not work, and now we have to go for some different steps. We need to do mobilization and basically finish the job. I'm gonna be biggest his supporter, man. Right? Let's change this freaking restraint policy, man. I'm not gonna vote for him anyways, but in this particular case, I'm gonna be a big supporter of this policy change, right? And that's majority's attitude. Some people will scare, obviously. Some people always scare, man, and will run away and make some freaking noise. But majority of us, well, we are ready, man. And we will do best we can, for sure. Let's continue with some other news. And Trump might meet Zelensky on Tuesday, next Tuesday, according to media reports. US President Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky are expected to meet in Washington on Tuesday, July 28. Newsmax reports citing unnamed White House officials. Zelensky went to US or plans to go to US to be there during the Lindsey Graham's when Lindsey Graham will be buried. And I guess Zelensky's inner circle and globalists, basically, Zelensky's masters, and that is globalists, obviously. They are trying to arrange a meeting with Trump. Okay, they will have a meeting again. What difference that does it makes, man? Nothing. Unfortunately, US is still leading in this war against Russian Federation, leading this anti-Russian camp together with UK, France, and Germany. And this is unfortunate, man, because we should not be enemies, man. US, neither France, neither Germany should be enemies of Russia, and neither UK, for that matter. I mean, British aristocracy is sick, obviously, mentally ill, and extremely Russophobic for at least a couple of centuries now. But when it comes to country, when it comes to people, man, I see no reason why British people and Russian people should be enemies, man, honestly. We should not. I mean, for God's sake, where is the UK and where are we? Why should we be hostile towards each other? But, you know, tell this to British, these psycho elites, man. Anyways, Trump also stated he went for let's go for some Middle Eastern updates now. A lot of news left. Okay. I hope as of now program was interesting, dear friends. There is about a dozen, maybe two more news that I want to share. So stay with me if you can. So TASS News Agency is reporting that well, Trump allegedly is waiting to hear from Iranian officials to resolve the conflict. One day Trump is insulting Iranian officials, calling them names and stuff. Other day he's waiting for some suggestions from Iranian officials. Come on, man, you are 80-year-old, right? Act a little bit more serious. Can he be a little more serious? He can't, probably, isn't it? But meanwhile, US and Iran continue exchange of strikes. Iran definitely caught US cornered US in this escalatory spiral. And if anyone side would like to see the escalation, first and foremost, that's US, because US military is yet again and are wasting the long-range munitions that they already have a tremendous deficit of. And they are not really achieving much in military terms, right? They don't even know what to strike because of a level on which Iranian armed forces are dispersed throughout the country. US militaries don't even know what to strike. And that's why instances when there is secondary strikes or third-time strikes on same places are increasing. Because literally, they don't know what to do, man, what to strike. And that's why I guess Trump, because he's briefed probably about it and been told that they just don't know what to strike because Iranian militaries are spread throughout the country, which is a massive, right? And they don't want to use a cruise missile to strike a platoon. You don't want to use cruise missile to strike platoon in any conflict, right? Because it's just you're gonna run out of missiles before you'll be able to destroy even a couple of battalions this way. But yet again, what Washington gonna do? They've been trapped now. They love to act tough, pretend that they are biggest and strongest and this and that, and they are hostages of their own propaganda now. American ruling class. Also interesting report that from Wall Street Journal that in July, this month, by the way, some time ago, early phase of this current tit-for-tat escalation, allegedly Bahrain and Kuwait participate in attacks on Iran with their air force. And if true, If true, then well, no wonder Iran is pretty much focused on eliminating any military assets of US, especially in these two countries, Kuwait and Bahrain, also in Jordan, by the way, obviously. And how stupid is that on behalf of, and suicidal actually, on behalf of Kuwait and Bahrain to directly attack Iran on behalf of US? I mean, they are finished. After this war ends, dear friends, I don't see Bahrain on the political map. I don't see Kuwait on the political map, and I don't see even UAE on the political map. These current state-like entities gonna disappear. Kuwait gonna be finished there, and it's gonna become a part of Iraq. Bahrain, well, might join Iran. Bahrain used to be part of Iran, so and their majority Bahrainis are Shiite Muslims, and well, maybe Bahrain will actually rejoin Iran. That will be right development of history, I believe. And UAE, man, UAE gonna get smoked for sure. Neither Iran, neither Saudi Arabia gonna forgive UAE steps that they take against these both, against Iran and the Saudis, on behalf of Western ruling class, by the way. If anybody thinks that, well, Saudis and UAE and they are Arabs and they're, they are on the same page, not really, by the way. They are enemies, actually, and they are killing each other and each other's assets in Yemen, for example, and many other areas. These two, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, are on the opposite side of the conflicts. And it was Saudis that forced UAE to get out of Yemen, for example, just like a couple of months ago, about half a year, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, something like that. I was reporting about it, probably you remember. So, yeah, big mistake on behalf of leadership of Bahrain and Kuwait to act this hostile against Iran. Also, we have an update that during these retaliatory strikes that Iran conducted, including on Bahrain, by the way, U.S. Patriot air defense system once again demonstrated how bad this system is actually. There are videos out there on internet when allegedly from U.S. base, Patriot missile is launched, and in a few seconds, very same missile, and you can clearly see this on videos, by the way, very same missile that does U-turn, goes back into base. Some reports say it was a US base, so US struck its own base with its own Patriot missile. Some say missile actually went away from base and struck a residential area in Bahrain. I mean, either way, this clearly indicates, because these failures of Patriot interceptors are happening more and more often, this clearly indicates that US actually ran out of relatively advanced PAC-3 missiles. And they are heavily relied now on older Patriots that barely can intercept anything whatsoever. That's how bad they are, man. Don't believe Western propaganda that Patriot air defense system is a great one and best in the world. It's garbage, man. Garbage. PAC-2 missiles cannot intercept probably nothing. PAC-3 missiles are more or less effective compared to previous ones against ballistics, but that's all. More or less more effective. Also, interesting report that Iranians intercepted their Tomahawk missile during one of the recent US attacks. And this is important, I think, because Tomahawk missiles, they're specific ones, right? They are flying low, as many cruise missiles do, and they are quite good in terms of navigating on the ground, using the landscape, basically, to avoid radar detection. And if Iran's air defenses are capable of intercepting Tomahawk missile, that indicates not just the capability but also volume, sheer numbers of air defense systems that Iran has deployed in the different parts of the country. And no wonder Iran still denies skies to U.S. Air Force. I mean, if Iranian troops are well capable of intercepting Tomahawk missiles, you can imagine what they will do to F-16s and F-18s and their F-15s or F-35s if they will try to go all gravity bombs, right? All kinetic, and fly inside the Iranian airspace in attempt to deliver these gravity bombs. They're going to be exterminated, right? So that's why U.S. continues to heavily rely on these long-range missiles that they are running out of, actually. TASS News Agency is also reporting that U.S. struck a tanker over their alleged Iranian gas cargo. Interesting. U.S. criticizes Iran for taking some actions against vessels that don't comply with Iran in and around Strait of Hormuz. And at the same time, U.S. itself does strikes vessels that don't comply. Interesting. So the United States attacked a tanker in the Gulf of Oman on suspicion that it was carrying Iranian liquefied natural gas, killing 2 crew members. Iran's state broadcaster reported, citing the source. So another war crime basically committed by US because US militaries have no business being in the Middle East. Everybody, whenever US militaries are pulling the trigger or pushing the button to launch missile or whatever, they should understand that they are committing crime against humanity, war crime, because they are engaged in a totally illegal war, right? Against country that did nothing against US, did not attack US, did not invade US, did not do nothing. To receive, to end up on the receiving end of US strikes. I wonder if American militaries understand that they are participating in a crime against humanity and a war crime. Some probably do, man. Some probably do understand, but majority maybe don't even think about it too much. I don't know. It depends on the level of brainwashing that Pentagon conducts on its own militaries. Iran, meanwhile, one country that was targeted for no reason at all, right, by US, by Israel and their allies. Iran has every reason to defend and every right to defend itself and its people and its interests. And therefore, there are reports that another vessel that tried to avoid communication with their Iranian Persian Gulf or Hormuz Strait authorities was, struck. I wonder when those companies that are operating in this area and the captains of the vessels gonna learn, man. You don't ignore Iran. You either cooperate with the Iranian administration of Hormuz Strait, or don't even go anywhere near of Oman Gulf, Hormuz Strait, or Persian Gulf. That's the reality. And this vessel was struck near Fujairah, right? And this is UAE, isn't it? This is UAE coastline on the Gulf of Oman. This is the Fujairah, and it's UAE has a lot of energy infrastructure in this area. By the way, they are exporting. They have capabilities to export a lot of oil from this harbor. Just look at their screen. I mean, this is massive industrial area, especially focused on oil and petroleum products, right? And this is the area where this vessel was struck. And why is that? Because Iran says in the Gulf of Oman, in the Persian Gulf, almost right in this area, if you want to move around, you cooperate with us. And also, by the way, of course, Iran will not allow UAE to use this coastal infrastructure of its that it has for now on the Gulf of Oman to avoid Strait of Hormuz. So who is in charge? Iran is in charge, right? Iran is in charge there. Also, I want to share with you this information. Well, U.S. Army's Special Forces depot, munition depot, was destroyed by Iranian striker in one of the Jordan bases. On the top screens, you can see, dear friends, before Iranian precision strike and after. Entire freaking warehouse is missing, went off. As a result of this yet another successful Iranian strike. And dear friends, you know, everybody is talking about involvement of China and involvement of Russia when it comes to this extremely precise strikes that Iran conducts on U.S. military assets in the region. I personally, I'm not sure that China is actually provides Iran with their specific coordinates of U.S. military assets, because Beijing is just too careful for that, right? Beijing is just too careful without actual, absolute necessity. Beijing rarely ever escalates, right? And I don't think they want any hit right now from US for providing Iran with their precise data about location of US assets. Although Iranian companies probably are providing Iran with their general satellite imagery, on which Iranian experts might look at her and determine what is a legit target and what is not, what they want to strike or not. And all this imagery of destroyed US assets also are from Chinese satellites. When it comes to Russia, I believe Russian state institutions don't really need permission from specific permission from Russian President Vladimir Putin to provide Iran, the Iranian colleagues, with specific information about military assets of US in the region, because Russia and Iran are strategical partners. Officially, by the way, we are strategical partners, and we are cooperating in many fields, economical field, finances, security also, right? And this cooperation, strategical cooperation in the security field, obviously can imply that Russian specialists can provide Iran with certain data that will help Iran to secure itself, right? Because it's all about security, correct? So to assist Iran in this way, I don't think Russian institutions, state institutions that might be involved in that need some specific authorization from Putin. I don't think so, right? Because I think we are strategical partners. There are agreements in place already. We don't need additional some agreements on top of that, at least as of now. But officially, you know, dear friends, Russian president, Russian foreign minister, other officials have said many times that Moscow is not involved in this war, right? In the Middle East, we are not providing no weapons, no intelligence, no nothing. We don't even know where Middle East is. All right, that's kind of official position. It is anybody's, option what to take or what to believe. I prefer to believe that we are helping Iranian people in their rightful fighter to defend themselves, right? But anyways, no matter what Moscow says officially, there are reports that CIA tries to push this narrative now through media that it controls directly or indirectly, that these Iranian attacks are contributed to Russian assistance. So US intelligence agencies are spreading the narrative of Russian assistance to Iran in carrying out precise attacks on CIA facilities in the Middle East, and there's not just CIA facilities. According to the author of the article in advance, this narrative aims to portray the conflict in Ukraine and Iran as a single front against their axis of Moscow, Beijing, and Tehran. And you know what? They can try whatever, man. They can push whatever narrative. I personally hope we are providing Iran with all the assistance we can provide so that Iranian people will defend themselves. That's my personal take. I believe vast majority of Russian citizens are on the same page. We are strategical partners. Iran is our friend, and we should help our friends, right? That is that. But officially, we are not involved there. And well, Trump every now and then is asked on this matter about involvement of China, involvement of Russia in organizing Iranian retaliatory strikes. And by the way, I mean, let's make one thing clear also. I hope we are helping Iranian people, but same time, let's not downgrade the capabilities of Iran itself, right? Iran has intelligence, by the way, and I mean, maybe Iran's satellite installation on orbit is not as impressive, but at least they have at least one intelligence satellite, right? At least one. Maybe there are more. And also, Iran has a well-capable intelligence service that might have its assets on the ground throughout the Middle East, right? So maybe they don't even need freaking satellites. They have people on the ground that can provide targeting data and maybe even laser guidance towards specific places, towards US assets. Correct? So there is many ways how Iran itself can pull off these precision strikes. But of course, if if they get some assistance, that will make it much easier. And hopefully, Russia is helping them to defend themselves, right? Well, we have to. But Trump was asked several times about this, and he is denying involvement of either China or Russia. President Xi, at our recent meeting in Beijing, China, told me that he would not, under any circumstances, give or sell weapons to the Islamic Republic of Iran. Trump wrote on his Truth Social poster, and that statement includes Chinese companies. Considering our relationship, I take him at his word, and besides, I am doing him very big favors also. Likewise, President Putin, despite the horrible war going on in Ukraine, relationships remain as it does with President Zelensky, told me that he would not sell weapons to Iran. I mean, we have contracts in place, man. What Trump is talking about? Russia and Iran have contracts in place, and Russian companies are obligated to provide Iran with the weapons that they purchase. What the hell? I don't think Putin will ever tell him that, or told Trump that we're not going to provide Iran with weapons. We have a contract in place. But, with Trump, you never know, right? He can come up with anything, right? At any given point. He can make up the story straight away. Either way, he is talking about weapons. in his post, intelligence is also very, very important. Very important. Trump continues, he understands that I do not sell weapons to Ukraine, but to NATO countries, if that makes difference, that I do not sell weapons to Ukraine, but to NATO countries, they pay full price, and how those weapons are distributed, I have no idea, really, we don't know where US weapons and how US weapons end up in Ukraine, in hands of Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists. Trump thinks the whole world is like a bunch of idiots, or what the hell, or he's so degenerate that he thinks he can lie his way constantly, right, and fool everybody. It's crazy. Therefore, two major countries that people speak of often in terms of Iran are, in my opinion, not participating. If they did, it would be very bad for them. Certainly not in their best interests, and Trump says, and he's now threatening China and Russia directly. What are you going to do? Send a couple of more strikers, infantry fighting vehicles, or Bradley infantry fighting vehicles to Kyiv regime, couple of more what? ATACMS missiles, although, I mean, they cannot send their ATACMS missiles because they don't have any left for themselves, right? Or if they do, they need those ATACMS because they don't really have much left when it comes to this tactical weaponry, right? Tactical long-range weaponry. What else are you gonna do? Send a couple of more drones to Kyiv regime? Russian air defense forces will take care of that as much as possible. And what Trump gonna do with China, man? Literally nothing. Like sell a couple of more, I don't know, Abrams tanks to Taiwan. What the hell? What the hell, man? But yes, he's directly. This is one of these rare occasions where when Trump, maybe even unwillingly, but directly threatened Russia and China, and this is not good because he's gonna be reminded of his own words by globalist controlled media, many times while he is still in office, and push towards taking some actions against either Russia or China or both, as he promised he will do. Anyways, when it comes to Middle East, dear friends, US, of course, is very much focused on next phase of war against Iran, which will include a ground invasion, at least from two directions. One is a northern ground invasion of Iran, at least from two directions, from northern Iraq, from Iraqi Kurdistan. This is the area, and from southern eastern side, where Baluchi minority lives, and they're both Iraqi Kurds. There is Iranian Kurds too, by the way, that have some armed formations, armed groups, terrorist organizations, basically, right? That may be used by US, Israel, and their allies against Iran. They're not really that much of a force, really. There are a lot of talks about Baluchi formations, Baluchi terrorist organizations, Kurdish terrorist organizations, but this is not really like actual force. So US will have to go all in with its own troops, and that will require tens of thousands of US militaries to be deployed, and it's going to be a massacre of US troops. Bob. In a year, potentially in 1 year, in Iran, if US will actually go for a full-scale war and invasion, might lose more troops that they lose in Vietnam throughout the war. Just saying, man. And there is not even slightest chance that U.S. and its allies is going to be able to conquer Iran. Just not happening. Impossible. Even if U.S. deploys nuclear weapons, by the way, they're not going to be able to conquer Iran. And hopefully, U.S. militaries will stop any attempts from Trump or anyone else to deploy nukes against Iran, because after all, it's the U.S. that is aggressor, not Iran. U.S. is not defending itself. It's Iran that is defending itself. So U.S. is already committing crime against humanity, war crime, while being engaged in this illegal war of choice with Iran. And if U.S. will deploy nukes, that will finally and forever decimate reputation of U.S. and probably country itself too. That will be end of U.S. Not Iran, but U.S. But they are preparing, anyways, they are preparing for next waves of war. And that's why there are a lot of reports that tremendous volume of cargo planes are constantly flying from Europe to Middle East, delivering munition, manpower, weaponry, whatever they can deliver through this air bridge. And also, of course, a lot of assets is being delivered towards Middle East by Navy assets. And U.S. has an issue now on its hands, also in terms of logistics, where they're gonna station these troops. They were thinking that Jordan is more or less safe place. Well, they find out that it is not, and Iran is eliminating U.S. assets in Jordan big time and quite effectively. Now, major base for U.S. is Israel, but I guess it's only a matter of time when Iran will start taking out U.S. assets on Israeli territory too. So U.S. will have a big issue. U.S. and its allies will have a big issue on their hands. Iran probably will deny them opportunity to build up their forces in a safe environment. Not happening. U.S. will be forced and its allies to build up their forces in the Middle East while being constantly targeted by Iranian forces, Iranian missiles, drones, and some special forces that will operate on the ground. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia conducted another bombing campaign against Yemen. Saudi-led coalition struck targets in the Houthi-held Yemeni port of Hodeidah on a Saturday, following attacks on Saudi ship in the Red Sea. Saudis are making such a massive mistake, isn't it, dear friends, with this escalation with their Ansar Allah movement, or Houthi rebels, as they also are known. Let me take a sec, dear friends, to make a screenshot here. There was one super chatter on Rumble from Scooby. There was a comments with the donations through PayPal. Of course, I will react on all of it, dear friends, after the news segment. And so Saudis are making terrible mistake with this escalation with their Ansar Allah movement, by the way, because I don't think they are in a position to escalate, actually, with anybody, especially with either Iran or Yemen. They might try to take on, I don't know, man, UAE, because they will have assistance from very same Iran. Maybe even Qatar, by the way, in some ways, but they cannot take on Iran and their Yemeni Houthis, and they are learning this a hard way. Of course, after this attack on Hodeidah, orchestrated by Saudis, Ansar Allah movement or Houthi rebels retaliated with large-scale missile and drone strikes on Saudi Arabia itself. And well, I have seen some videos, by the way, some photos about aftermath of this Houthi strike. And well, looks like Saudi air defense forces were unable to do anything. And reports are that oil facilities in Jizan and at their city's refinery is in Jizan has been destroyed, basically, right? And fires are still ongoing in Jizan area. Yemeni attack on Jizan were painful and effective and will have a positive impact on increasing oil prices. I saw this report on the Geopolitics channel, and there on top screen difference you can see areas where by satellites fire was detected. So there is at least 5 separate places in more or less one location, and that indicates that there was at least 5 places that were directly struck by Ansar Allah missiles and drones. So why Saudis are escalating, man? Why they are asking for this heat? It's so counterproductive. It's so counterproductive. Instead of contacting Tehran and asking to mediate with Ansar Allah movement so that they will de-escalate and there will be no issues, neither with their Saudi energy infrastructure on the Red Sea coast, right? Neither with the navigation through the Red Sea or Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So instead of doing this, Saudis are choosing to escalate and target Yemen. I mean, they are unable to learn, isn't it? And they're willingly or unwillingly, but they are playing in hands of Western ruling class. Because if Ansar Allah movement shuts down navigation through Bab el-Mandeb Strait and will harass navigation in the Red Sea, then you guess who's going to be beneficial? Which side is going to be beneficial? Western ruling class, because all Western ruling class wanted from this Middle Eastern chapter of their strategy while launching this war was to isolate Middle Eastern from the rest of the world, from global economy, especially in terms of energy supplies, for as long as possible and as much as possible. So I don't know, man. I don't know there is no rationale behind their Riyadh's activity. Totally irrational actions that only serves the interests of the Western ruling class. Because they know Houthis gonna retaliate, man. Houthis will not mess around. They will strike back, strike hard. That's exactly what they do. Also, a few more news, dear friends. Meanwhile, not surprisingly, China start increasing significantly its oil imports from Russian Federation, and probably will continue to do so because the Chinese strategical reserves are melting as the Middle Eastern crisis continues. And if a situation will escalate so much so that Bab el-Mandeb Strait is also closed, and Red Sea is completely cut off from Indian Ocean, let's say, then, well, of course, that will definitely push energy crisis in this world to a whole new level, right? And China don't really has much options when it comes to purchasing energy, isn't it? And I remind you, dear friends, that's what the Western ruling class wants. Middle Eastern chapter of their strategy is about isolating this region, especially energy sector of this region, from global economy, so that West will push China to increase its dependence on Russian energy supplies up to a critical level, because Western ruling elites believe that in that case, they're going to be able to generate tensions between Russia and China, and maybe even provoke a confrontation between the two and get rid of both this way and entire global South once and for all, and cement its own dominance over this planet. That's what Western ruling class wants, and unfortunately, at least partially, they are succeeding as of now. Which is huge risk for whole of humanity, by the way. I have said many times before that not just Russia and China cannot afford to allow Western ruling elites to be successful in their global strategy or in their Middle Eastern chapter of this global strategy, but humanity itself cannot afford Western ruling class, this evil force, to be successful, given the risks that they are generating for everybody. And few more news. Europe hits Google with another 1 billion fine for favoring its own services in the search result. Google has 60 days to comply with their regulations or pay up. And well, Trump reacted on this with another poster on True Social. I'm not going to read it, by the way, but he's basically threatening EU with their additional sanctions or additional tariffs, and probably, probably he will go for some additional tariffs. Anybody's guess. European economies already are in dire situation, by the way, right? Because of their energy crisis, inability to compete with Chinese companies on a global scale, and also because of the high taxes. And when I say high taxes, I mean not just taxes that they pay in EU, but also American tariffs, right? So European economy, European business is already being crushed big time, and if Trump goes for another tariffs, even if it's a 5% on top of everything else, that might be quite fatal for many businesses throughout the Europe, which will make, of course, overall economical situation even more difficult for them. And well, because of this specific relationships between US and Europe, well, Americans did manage quite easily to force European countries to cut off ties with Russia, including in energy sector, and become fully dependent on US while pretending to be allies, right, friends and stuff. And now, New York Times, for example, reports that the European elites are beginning to fear these consequences of this extreme dependence on the US after refusal of Russian energy, for example. And their dependence is colossal, by the way, colossal. EU fears becoming dependent on the United States after abandoning Russian energy supplies. New York Times reports Europe is already extremely dependent on US. Europe has significantly increased its fuel imports, especially from the United States. This has given rise to strong concerns that the old world, Europe, by refusing Russian gas, Russian energy, is providing Washington with their excessive leverage over domestic energy policy, publication states. As the newspaper notes, American supplies currently account for about two-thirds, by the way, of Europe's liquefied natural gas imports. And this share could rise to 80% by the end of the decade in next 3 to 4 years. And I mean, if this is not an extreme level of dependence on US, then what this is? European bureaucracy is truly imbeciles, man. What can I say? Truly imbeciles, man. They destroy ties with Russia, while listening to London and Washington. They destroyed economical relationships. They refuse Russian energy, relatively cheap Russian energy, including pipeline gas, which is always going to be much cheaper. Not just cheaper, but much cheaper than liquefied natural gas. And now are extremely heavily relied on the gas supplies from US. And they pay, I don't know, twice more for the same energy. This is crazy, man. This is clearly Europe is committing suicide. What can I say, man? Under the leadership of these imbeciles that are in charge of EU, European countries are committing suicide. That's what it is, man. That's what it is. And I don't think anybody can really argue with this take of mine. Also, by the way, Trump was Trump wake up probably on a bad mood, and he went not just after Europeans, but he went after Canada too. Canada disinvited the United States of America to the opening of the Gordie Howe Bridge, which is fine considering they are paying substantial tariffs to the United States. Trump says he just recently increased tariffs on Canada, isn't it? Significantly. And Trump also stated that US is changing deal with Canada in regards to this particular bridge also. And if before profits from operating this bridge was Canada's, now US will demand 50%. I mean, yet again, man, it was a deal, right? It was a deal document signed by US officials, and now Trump comes around and says, no, we're not going to honor that agreement. I don't give a damn if it's been signed or not. Who cares? I'm going to change it. And you're going to do nothing about it. That's how they operate, man. That's how they operate time and again, right? This is a constant story, unending story. And that's why, while commenting on Anchorage Summit and constant statements or regular statements of Russian officials about this Anchorage Summit, I struggle to understand how they could actually trust, man, Western ruling class and think that they will honor verbal agreement when they are ignoring signed agreements practically constantly. But we are living in very strange times, man. What can I say? And on top of that difference, we have this news that Russian central bank lowered the key rate for another 0.25%, which is obviously very little, if anything, in terms of having an impact on economy. This will go down unnoticed, and the overall interest rate of central bank is, of course, still extremely high, 14%. Too much, man, too much. And it is still almost impossible, by the way, to get a loan if you want to in the banks. Banks are refusing to give loans even to clients that have a greater story, right? Financial story, credit story. I've been refused by my banker at least 3 times to get a loan. And I have a great record, by the way, right? Greater record of credit story. And bank knows this. Last time I was asking for a loan, bank's employee was truly surprised. Bank's employee checked my credit story, and it was almost perfect. They have their own ways to measure it, and it was almost perfect. It still is, by the way. And nevertheless, bank refused to give me a loan. And I was planning to take a loan to reorganize my finances, right? To make it more simpler, right? To simplify in a ways. And I'm a good client. I always pay on time everything I have to pay, and there are no issues ever, at least as of now. But still, bank refused. And I'm not alone, obviously, right? This is the policies of Russian commercial banks. They very rarely give credits to clients compared to previous times, correct? And that, of course, has a massive impact on economy, massive impact on economy. And after all, there is a reason why many people believe that the Russian central bank and economical blocker not just cool down economy with their policies, but probably went a little too far even. And this year we're going to be in a recession, and I'm afraid due to these long-range attacks, constant long-range attacks on Russian Federation and all their issues that those attacks are creating, now I'm afraid we're going to be in a recession next year too. Yeah. And maybe year after also. I mean, who knows, man? Who knows? But this year it's going to be a recession. It seems inevitable. Next year probably also recession. And a year after, yeah, let's see. And this is it, dear friends, for a news segment, itself. I hope you find it informative and interesting. A long update, more than 2 hours, man, 2 hours and 16 minutes, 17 minutes right now. But hopefully you like the program. And in that case, please click that like button and leave some commentary. Might have a good influence, the good effect on the algorithm, so that maybe more people will see this update. Maybe algorithm will share this video with at least with members of community, by the way, right? And will send notifications. So please like the video, leave some commentary. And now let's have a little community chat. There was recommendations, dear friends, from Christopher about some interesting videos that he come across on different platforms. And if I may, I will start with these recommendations, and then I will go through super chats. Sorry, dear friends, I'm freezing at moments because the live stream is already too long. So, but I try my best to give you interesting Q&A. And so, let's start with these recommendations from Christopher. Thank you very much, Christopher, for your recommendations and donations to this project through PayPal. And let's highlight these recommendations. And only one, or is the video you might like to watch. Russia shows Putin its newest jets, MS-21 and Yak-130. This video can be seen on YouTube channel called Altitude Addicts. Hope you like this video. And dear friends, Putin was actually in Irkutsk. Today is in Omsk, right? But yesterday he was in Irkutsk. There is a Russian entire plants there of Russian aerospace industry. Putin visited one of those plants, and he was shown import substituted MS-21 civilian plane. And dear friends, only a few countries in this world are capable of building either military planes or civilian planes independently, fully independently. Russia is a country, one of those few countries that can do this. And Putin was also shown Yak-130M combat trainer aircraft, which is also playing with a huge potential, I believe, right? So you can see, as Christopher notices, you can see some report about it on Altitude Addicts channel. Also, Christopher recommends to check out a video on which you can see Russia's newest low-cost supermarket opening day. Video can be seen on a YouTube channel called Traveling with Russell. Video is 34 minutes long, but yes, it's traveling. If it's a traveling video, it might be very interesting for members of our community. Very often, excuse me, I watch traveling videos, by the way. It's interesting, isn't it? I watch traveling videos when people travel to Russia, and I watch videos when people travel throughout the world, right? Different countries, because that's one of the ways how we can have at least some understanding about different countries, right? So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Christopher, this information. And also there is another recommendation which says Russian Spetsnaz captured 7 Brazilian mercenaries. What West media did not show you, this video can be seen on the YouTube channel Murat's Son. So dear friends, if you are interested to see that video, Murat's Son published a report about Brazilian mercenaries being captured. Also, there were more recommendations from Christopher, and I will get after these recommendations, I will get super chat too, dear friends. So there are more recommendations. Lugares Fantásticos channel, which is a fantastic places in English, correct? There is a video in which you can see Russia annihilated Ukraine's 8th Battalion. Their entire unit fell into ambush. That's gonna be, I'm gonna watch that video, by the way. That's probably some epic stuff there. Channel's name is Lugares Fantásticos in Spanish, that is correct, or Portuguese, probably Spanish. In English, it will be special special places or fantastic places. Also, Christopher is recommending a video that he come across on Countercurrents YouTube channel. There, Russia and China are watching ex-CIA analyst Larry Johnson and Larry Johnson is sharing information about stockpiles of US missiles, and Larry Johnson says, and you all are familiar with Larry Johnson, isn't it, dear friends? And he is highlighting that the US is running out of these missiles. And well, I'm saying so for a very long time now, isn't it? I'm saying the very same stuff, although I'm not a freaking CIA analyst or something, but you know, it's logical, right? It's logical that they are using these long-range means that they cannot produce in a mass, in the quantities that they actually disperse and deploy. Also, there was another set of recommendations, dear friends. Let me highlight these two. And thank you, Christopher, for sharing these recommendations, because every now and then, you know, people are looking for some stuff, some interesting content to watch on the internet. And with these recommendations, on one hand, you are helping my channel because you are sending these comments with donations through PayPal. And on the other hand, you are helping members of community that might want to take a look at this type of content, right? So another recommendation is that hello everyone, here is the video that you might like to watch. David Lensman, Brits don't trust America anymore. Trump, Europe, and their shocking 2026 poll. Video can be seen on YouTube channel called Peacemonger. So that's the recommendation, dear friends. Also, another one. Hello everyone, can you please listen to song Matt Munro from Russia with Love? Matt Munro from Russia with Love. You can listen to the song on YouTube channel called Bond Top 10. Theme songs HQ. If you listen to song, could please tell me if you like it. I think I know a song that you are talking about, Christopher. I mean, barely, but I'm even remembering there some notes from the song. It's a legendary. When it comes to Bond theme songs, it's one of the most famous one, I believe, if I remember correctly. It's an old Bond theme, isn't it? When Sean Connery was playing. Sean Connery was playing in that era. I think I know the song, right? I'm gonna listen to it and then check if I was correct. And another recommendation from Christopher, hello everyone, here's the video you might like to watch. No Way Out, Russian forces trap entire Ukrainian platoon. This video can be seen on YouTube channel called Military Updates. So dear friends, also another video with the battlefield in a close range battle on Military Update, when entire platoon of Kiev regime was trapped by Russian forces. Also, let's go for other comments and notifications. There is notification from Christopher through PayPal, but there is an interesting video. China's gas pipeline from Russia is changing world's energy map. This video can be seen on YouTube channel Civil Mentors, and well, if it's about Power of Siberia 2 pipeline, it will be interesting to see what this channel has to say about it. There are different opinions on Power of Siberia 2. Some say that soon, before end of this year, agreement will be finalized. Some people are more skeptical, and I am in the camp of those skeptics. I think Power of Siberia may not even be built because last what I have read about matter is that China is demanding that they will pay for gas on the same rate as Russian citizens pay for gas here in Russia. And why would Moscow ever agree on that? If that is the case, then this Power of Siberia 2 never will become a rental business, right? So it makes no sense for Russian side to agree on that. And also, allegedly, Chinese side demands to have a right to purchase whenever and whatever volume of gas they want, without any obligations to buy necessarily certain volume at least, right, of gas. And it's a standard practice whenever gas pipelines are built. Receiving side always takes obligation that at least they're going to buy this volume of gas every year, so that seller will know, right, will have a calculation, can calculate how much it can make. It can make in 10 years time, 20 years time, 30 years time, and if investments into building the pipeline worth it. And China wants to change their entire game in this regard, and I don't think Moscow will agree on that. I mean, why should Moscow agree on that, really? So I'm in camp of skeptics when it comes to power of Siberia too. But maybe there is some new developments in past several days that I missed or something, right? Anything is possible. So Civil Mentors, that's the channel on which you can see, dear friends, report about this pipeline, gas pipeline between Russia and China. Either it's on about power of Siberia 1 or power of Siberia 2. Either way, it will be interesting. It's a geoeconomical project, right? So it's a big deal. Also, there was a $10 donation from NSPK77. Thank you very much, NSPK, for your $10 donation through PayPal. And the question is, do you consider the Odessa blockade a true game changer in terms of economic, military, logistics consequences? Game changer? No. No. If blockade continues, if politicians will not get involved and Russian militaries will be able to seal this maritime blockade, of course, that will be a big strike on military capabilities of Kiev regime, financial capabilities also of Kiev regime. But to say game changer, I mean, in which way? Russia is advancing anyways. Russia is winning on the battlefield anyways. It will have an impact for sure on Kiev regime's capabilities. But there is alternatives, right? Kiev regime's NATO backers will try to use ground routes, right? To push to transfer to Ukraine whatever they want to transfer and to remove from Ukraine whatever they want to remove, including, let's say, agricultural produce. So it's this maritime blockade is something I believe that should be done in 2022 on the very first day that a special military operation was launched. It was not. Instead, Moscow was engaged in this useless grain deal, right? Grain deal 1, grain deal 2. So much time was wasted, and but at least now, Russian militaries have a green light to go ahead and introduce this maritime blockade, which will definitely have an impact. But I would not say that this will decimate either military or financial capabilities of Kiev regime, because neither militarily, neither financially, Kiev regime is self-sufficient. I mean, the Kiev regime only exists because of the money and the weapons that they are receiving from the West. And the West can still provide Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists with weapons and money whenever they want through means of delivery that they still have, right? Including when it comes to weapon supplies or supplies of anything else. It's a lot of ground routes, right, that can be used. From Romania, from Poland, I mean, maybe even through Slovakia and Hungary. So I don't think this is a game changer. This is just something that had to be done way before. It's good that, this maritime blockade was introduced at least now, and even then, NSPK, even then, this was a retaliatory step from Russian side. This is a retaliatory step from Russian side because of these constant attacks on commercial shipping through Azov Sea and Black Sea, right? That Russia was engaged. If Kiev regime and its NATO backers did not went after commercial navigation into Azov Sea and the Black Sea, I think Russian militaries will not receive green light to introduce from Kremlin to introduce maritime blockade on Odessa region. And because this is a response to actions of Kiev regime and its NATO backers, I'm afraid there is a probability that if Western ruling class will send a message to Moscow that, you know what, we're no longer going to attack you in Azov Sea or Black Sea, and you lift maritime blockade on Odessa, Maybe Kremlin will agree on that. Maybe Kremlin will take that deal. That will be a mistake, I think, but you know, but to call it a game changer, no. I mean, this is just an additional step that was absolutely needed a long time ago to cripple military, financial, economical capabilities of this Ukrainian Nazi and the terrorist regime. And there are also an SPK right now. I see your additional comment in the chat. Okay, we'll see if soon the effect of Odessa closure, if flow of NATO weapons is seriously diminished. Yes, exactly. I agree with you. I mean, this will definitely have an impact on the battlefield, 100%. This maritime blockade. But well, unfortunately, hostile side still has other ways to get its weapons from Romania and Poland. And look, it's not just any route, but it's a massive, absolutely massive routes, man. Romania, look. I mean, can you imagine how many crossings are here from Romania into Western Ukraine, or how many crossings are from Poland into Western Ukraine? I'm not even saying anything about Slovakia and Hungary. And several major logistical hubs through which Kiev regime was actually receiving a lot of weapons and continues to receive a lot of weapons and munition are located in Romania and Poland, and were transferred to Kiev control territory through ground. Not through sea, but through ground. Although, of course, for example, if France, UK, Spain, Italy, if those countries, Germany also partially, although Germany also sends mostly its equipment through ground, through Poland. But if there is additional waves, I mean, there are a number of countries for whom transfer of weapons through maritime routes will be much more convenient for UK, for example, right? Because they can load their cargo vessels somewhere in Portsmouth, I don't know, and send a vessel which will arrive in about, I don't know, 10 days time in Odessa region. But now UK will have to send the weapons first into continental part of Europe and then through ground, which will make logistics much difficult, but unfortunately it's still doable. It's still doable. So therefore, maybe Russian troops will receive green light to take out all the main highways, at least, and bridges on the main highways that connect Romania to Ukraine and also Poland to Ukraine. Maybe that is going to be next step. I don't know. Either way, this maritime blockade will definitely have an impact, 100%, on the capabilities, military capabilities, financial capabilities, economical capabilities of Kiev regime. Although it will not be enough to initiate collapse of Kiev regime right now or in immediate future. And first and foremost, because existence of modern Ukraine, Kiev regime is fully depends on Western world, collective West, right? And as long as collective West is willing to provide these Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists with the weapons and money, then also, thank you very much once again, NSPK, for your donation through PayPal, and for your commentary question. And also, let me read you, Francis. Scooby's super chat. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat on the Rumble. And $2 donations. Scooby is commenting, I told you a couple of months ago that algorithmic trading is probably what's keeping oil prices down. Now everyone is I'm always forgetting to make screenshots in a way that it will be readable. Now everyone is saying it. I told you a couple of months ago that algorithmic trading is probably what's keeping oil prices down. Now everyone is saying it. Yes, yes. I mean, yeah. And you were correct. You were correct. This sharp drop in oil prices definitely was making no sense because crisis was still there, right? Shortage on the market was still there. But just because Trump was making some freaking statements or this memorandum of understanding, which never meant anything serious, it was always deception on behalf of Western ruling class. Well, prices were on oil was dropped, and to me personally, I mean, it was never logical, right? It was a clearly speculations on the markets, and these speculations continue. These speculations continue to this moment, although prices are increasing. Especially now when Houthis and Saudis are at each other. And there is a probability that Red Sea gonna get close, or Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So, yeah, you are correct. Thank you for sharing, Scooby, and also, dear friends, let me highlight these super chats too, also from Scooby. Thank you very much, Scooby, again for your super chats and the donations on Rumble. And the first super chat or second super chat is 95% of Russians use Android or iOS on phone or Windows, Mac OS on PC, Aura operational system and Astra Linux are the Russian systems. Why are they not used? Aurora or Astra Linux? I don't know. Maybe because most of the devices, vast majority of devices that are operating on Android or and obviously Mac is which is Apple, right? Most of these devices are Western ones, and they are not inclined to introduce Russian operational systems or any systems that have anything to do with Russia. If one day we will have our own big manufacturing when it comes to the cell phones or notebooks or PCs, then of course Russian programs will have a better chances. But right now, I mean, I don't even know even a single company, by the way. I don't even know name of a single company here in Russia that produces cell phones, for example. There were attempts, right? There were some advertising, some tricks conducted by some companies when they were pretending that they are producing Russian phones, right? In reality, they only had assembly lines, right? And phones details were Chinese. And there are many companies are engaged in such a trickery, but actual Russian designed, Russian built phones, I mean, where are they? There are no companies that do this, right? When it's actually Russian, not some Chinese parts assembled in Russia, but actually Russian made stuff. There is no such a thing. So therefore, Russian software has very little chances to be competitive. There is another way. If Russian government will demand that any gadget, cell phone or notebook or PC or whatever, any gadget that uses software that is imported in Russia should have a Russian software. If government will make such a demand, in that case, I'm quite sure, by the way, if softwares are in place, then at least Chinese companies probably would not be against it to implement, to install these Russian softwares in the phones that they are then selling to Russia or to even maybe former Soviet republics. But I don't think Russia has officially, Russian government has any demands of that kind. And therefore, Russian software engineers have very little chances to compete with their Windows or MacOS or whatever, or Android for that matter. Also, Scooby is commenting, important to understand that downward rate adjustment of 1% in the USA is proportionally similar to adjustment of about 4% in Russia too. Well, that's something that I wouldn't say I understand. I can't even remember when in US there was a 1% adjustment of rate, if ever. I mean, probably there was some times, by the way, when US also had a high interest rates, but right now, I mean, I'm not a financial expert, obviously, never pretend to be, but I think this 0.25 drops, they don't really do anything. They just don't really do anything. And I think interest rate 14% is way too high, and I think economy needs some oxygen. And central bank is basically suffocating economy with these high interest rates, while afraid, and central bank has its own kind of explanations, right? They are afraid of high inflation. They are afraid that the economy will go overheating again, in overheating mode. And they're afraid so because, unfortunately, Russia is facing lack of manpower when it comes to economy, right? Lack of workforce. Unemployment is around 2%, lowest ever, right? And there is not really capabilities here inside the Russia to put more people into work. Only way is to increase effectiveness of work, right? And that will push, of course, many companies to go AI, to deploy more AI tools and robotics, right? That will release certain number of workforce, obviously, that can be then introduced to other segments of the economy. But this is a slow process, right? This is a slow process. But right now, Russia needs ideally millions of more workers, millions of more people that can join economical activity. And this is not easy to do, right? Because this migrant workforce that is coming to Russia in millions also creates certain tensions in the social fabric that you constantly have to monitor in order to avoid the difficulties that European countries are facing, for example. So therefore, central bank tries to balance just everything in this very complex situation. And that's why I cannot be very critical of this policy of high interest rates, because it's easy to say, drop interest rates to 5%, that will flood the economy with a tremendous volume of oxygen, right? Money. But yes, it will happen, but then demand gonna reach increase tremendously and the economy would not be able to deliver, right? That will hit inflation. That will, overheat economy again, create additional so many problems for the country that eventually maybe this high interest rate and a little bit of recession even for a year or two will be, if you balance everything, will be better way to go. And probably that's the calculation of central bank. That's why they keep these high interest rates. Although many people are very critical, by the way, of central bank for this, but I'm not willing to criticize central bank for being cautious. Maybe they are experts, right? Maybe they are calculating and they are seeing the picture in which if they drop interest rate big time, then that will hit Russian economy like 10 times bigger than high interest rates do. So they have reason to be cautious in that case, isn't it? And there was also the difference. Wow. There was a few donations and the comments through PayPal, Super Chat also, and their premium gift card from Viper. Let me highlight, dear friends, if I may. I'm probably getting a little bit tired, or not tired, but maybe blood pressure is increasing because I'm struggling to keep focus. I will highlight this, and that's about it, dear friends. Almost 3 hours. We have a stream. Thank you very much, Spiridon, for your $11 donations through PayPal. And Spiridon, are you from Georgia? Because Spiridon is a name in Georgia. Either way, thank you very much, Spiridon, for your $11 donations through PayPal. Comment is, thanks for your news updates, Levan. Thank you very much. Also, Eofi, thank you very much for your very generous donation of $55 on PayPal. Thank you. And comment from Eofi is, LGO, keep up your increasingly important worker, please, Levan. Thank you, Eofi, from Italy. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your generous donation, kind words, support, and attention. Thank you. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Eofi. Eofi. Thank you very much. I know. Hopefully I'm pronouncing correctly. And also Scooby is commenting, and I'm struggling to read, dear friends. Thank you very much, Scooby, once again for your super chat and the donation. And the comment is, apparently China sees less future demand for gas than initially. It's not Italy. I barely can see anything. Probably I have high blood pressure or something. I struggle to focus, man. It's not Italy's flag. It's Ireland. Goodness me, man. It's Ireland. My apologies, Eofi. Okay, I can't see. For God's sake, I said probably I have high blood pressure. I have to take some freaking medicine in a few minutes. So it's Irish flag, of course. Thank you very much once again for your generous donation and the kind words. And greetings to Ireland. Hello, everyone there. And Scooby is commenting. Thank you, Scooby, for your super chat once again. And apparently, China sees a lesser future demand for gas than initially anticipated. Thus, they are placing less priority on Siberia too. I mean, definitely the case, I guess. At least one of the reasons why Chinese position is very uncompromised when it comes to this project, and also it's a business, isn't it? Chinese are very tough businessmen, and they see kind of opportunity that they can pressure Russia to agree on terms in the current circumstances that otherwise Moscow would never take. And they are probably testing the ground. If it will work, it will work. If not, then, as you say, right now, this pipeline is not that essential, right? Maybe in a year or 2 years' time, if this uncompromised position of China would not work, then maybe in a year or two, they will change the take, right? When new gas project will make more sense for them, and maybe they will come up with terms that Russia can take. But right now, I guess they, as you said, they don't really see this side power of Siberia to be like that important, and they are exercising, some strengths that they think they have over Russian side. Let's see where this will lead. I think they're going to be no agreement on power of Siberia anytime soon, because for Russian side it makes no sense to sell energy to a neighboring country on prices that Russian citizens buy this energy, right? Makes no sense, honestly, right? If China joins Russian Federation, then okay, it will make sense, but China not going to join Russia, isn't it? So it is what it is. It's a business, and Chinese are known to be very tough business people, by the way, very tough businessmen. So it's nothing personal, as one say, it's just the business. And thank you very much. Thank you, Scooby, for your comment, interesting comment, and donation and the super chat on Rumble. And I want to also thank Viper for a premium subscription gift card, which is a $5 donation, by the way, on Rumble. Every such premium subscription gift card that you can either give to someone or keep it to yourself, every such gift card is a $5 donation. So thank you very much, Viper, once again for your supporter and their attention. And Viper is, of course, one of their biggest supporters of this project. Always helps on Rumble with their premium subscription gift cards, and many members of our community on Rumble have a premium subscription because of the Viper. So thank you very much, Viper, and many thanks to all of you, dear friends, for your support, for your attention, for your comments and their questions through support platforms. I have to end the live stream now because truly I barely able to read anything on the screen. It all goes like that. That's what high blood pressure does, isn't it? Anyways, I try to make an interesting program for you. Hopefully you liked it, and in that case, please click that like button, leave some commentary, share video with your friends, maybe share a word about the existence of my channel. Have a wonderful day, dear friends, and take care. Bye for now.